have their egg timer here?
I never used the gavel.
Always new things. Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Finance and Physical Resources Committee. Today's date is October 20th, 2015. The time is 8:30 a.m. We preceded this meeting today with a work session going through our 2016 budget at 7:30 a.m. We met and worked through that and answered questions, and we'll continue to have some work sessions before we're ready to bring that budget to this committee. So with that, I'll begin with agenda item number 2, which is public comment. Is there any public comment today? I see none, so we'll move to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Commissioner Voorhees, and I heard support by Commissioner Mast. Are there any questions or comments? I see none, so all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We move to agenda item number 4, which is an action request by the Administrator's Office.
This is a request to recommend to the board to approve a 5-year agreement with Experience Grand Rapids. The Board of Commissioners has historically committed an appropriation of the lodging excise or hotel motel tax revenues to convention and tourism promotion through an agreement with Experience Grand Rapids. The current 3-year contract will expire December 31st, 2015. I'm recommending a new 5-year agreement for services to be provided by Experience Grand Rapids and compensation to be paid for those services. Under the terms of the proposed agreement, Experience Grand Rapids will be paid a fee equating to between 17 and 18% of lodging excise tax receipts collected, depending on the year and the amount of tax receipts. Experience Grand Rapids will present to the Board of Commissioners a preliminary annual report on or before October 1st of each year, with a final report to be delivered not later than 45 days following the end of each calendar year. The contract has been approved as to form by Assistant Corporate Counsel.
Okay, is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Commissioner Jones, is there support?
Support.
Commissioner Voorhees, questions or comments? Commissioner Mast.
Darrell, you said during our work session that this was performance-based.
Yes.
Where, and I don't see that I was kind of quickly glancing through it because when I read it last night, I didn't see anything about it. And where does it say that in the contract?
The shaded area, it's really performance-based, based on the amount of revenues received. So if you look at my memo, the first page of the memo outlines the percentages and the potential contributions.
Right, okay.
And then in the agreement itself, it is section 4 of the agreement.
The whole thing, that's,
Shaded,
okay,
yeah.
that's what you refer to as performance-based. Okay, I was looking for something else. I was thinking more, I don't know, how many conventions would be brought in, it's strictly hotel related.
It's dollar related. It's dollar
Yeah,
performance.
okay. All right. We didn't have that in this present one, right now? We just
No, it was
basically.
flat 16.75%
So
on
this,
the amount of hotel and motel tax receipts.
so this gives some incentive to Experience Grand Rapids to push hotels.
Great. Any other questions? Commissioner Bukowski.
Yeah, just to, as we've said when they've presented to us before, we greatly appreciate the excellent work that Experience Grand Rapids is doing, with revenue up and continuing to plan for the future. Had an opportunity in Rotary last week to hear the folks from Pure Michigan talk about, again, the great partnership that we have. And so definitely excited about our future, filled with hope about our future. At the same time, it's Michigan, and I guess the first, my first read through or two on this, I was struck that there wasn't a reverse gear in this gearbox, in the sense of as things grow, that there is a higher piece. But then the part for me is it's because it's right now 16.75% of whatever comes in. So if the worst thing happened and everyone stopped traveling, they'd get 16.75% of nothing. But it's when it exceeds these amounts, then they would get the extra percentages. So So I guess there is a reverse in the sense of it's going to float based on actual revenue. So again, I keep whatever whining about our next recession because it just will come. And I just want to make sure we don't say we're surprised, because it will, it's going to be painful, but we can't be surprised.
You and Ron Paul.
Me and Ron Paul. Thank you for that comparison. So anyways, good stuff.
I was going to say, maybe if we have Doug Small, the president of Experience Grand Rapids, come forward and give comments on your, obviously in agreement with.
It's been voted on and seconded, right?
Not been voted on.
Nice try.
Well, first, I appreciate all the comments and talk about performance. I was talking with Dan on the way over here. This relationship has been a wonderful one, in the sense that we hope you see that as you are providing finance or funding to us, we are returning it handsomely back to you. When I say we, not just us, but including our partners out there. Daryl sits on our board. I think he sees, going back to performance-based, that our board holds us to some pretty strict performance-based figures also that we must hit beyond this, and it's clicking. We are in our 6th consecutive record-setting year for hotel performance. We are currently 13.4% ahead in revenue than we were a year ago, which was a record year. And our budget for this next year is to increase that by another 5%. So look forward to another 7th consecutive record year. Hotel occupancy in this town was 48% back in 2008. We're sitting at 69% right now. National average is about 66. So things are going in the right direction, and I think we've got the plan to continue that. And I also would say, too, we've got a great partnership with the West Michigan Sports Commission, and we do provide, a portion of this funding does go to support their efforts.
Doug, you said it was 40 what in?
It was 48 in 2008,
Yeah, and now it's,
69%.
and that's even with a lot of additional rooms that have been added.
Yeah, there's been some coming in we've been able to absorb. We'll have a few more coming in this next year. Maybe about 300 more will be added in this next year in the county. We feel that our business, both from the convention side and where we're really taking off, is we put a lot of effort and financing into drawing more leisure travelers. If you didn't see the news yesterday, a study that came out, good old beer tourism, providing about 42,000 visitors to this, overnight visitors coming into this community annually that spend over $12 million. So it's things like that on top of your traditional conventions and group business that's driving this.
That's great, those are great numbers. Good work. Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 5-year agreement, good stuff. I remember those 48% days
Yes.
back in 2008. Where does this put us as far as the county? And I think we all recognize the value of, Experience Grand Rapids. Where does this put us as far as your funding sources, as far as the county goes, as a percentage of your organization?
A solid number 2 only to the hotel commitment. Hotels give us 4% of their hotel room revenue. So we're just like we're motivated to build your tax base because that is through hotel stays. It's the same with the hotels. So it's very simple. Our mission is very simple: fill hotel rooms.
Commissioner Mast.
How do our motel rates in our community fare relative to throughout the nation?
We've risen, our percentage of increase in our average daily hotel rate is well ahead of the national pace. And so that nobody panics, we were also very undervalued before. So you go back to the hotel occupancy of 48%, how that's grown. Rate has grown too, but keep in mind our rate was so low compared to our competitive set. And our competitive set tends to be the Cincinnatis, the Pittsburghs, the Columbus, larger cities whose rates just naturally are higher anyhow. So we're still very competitive. It's great to see the hotels making more money off that. We're not seeing any pushback yet from our customer base, but we continue to keep an eye on that too, because we don't want to get to the point where we're starting to lose business because of it.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you, Doug.
Thank
Again,
you.
great job. Keep
Thanks.
up the good work.
Appreciate the
Oh,
collaboration.
One more question.
I mean, I had said, I just, you know, I was president of a little small conference that we had in town here the first 3 days of October. It was at the Amway Grand Plaza. And I thought it was a fantastic price that they gave our little group. So I stayed at the Amway. I've never stayed at the Amway. I stayed in the towers, and that was really a nice experience. But it was totally full. Everything was totally full, of course, during the art prize. But
We're seeing a lot of that now. Thanks for the business, by the way.
And I see a lot of the CTA insignias on people as they go around. You know, everybody's got it. So I
We've
guess
got about 2,000, just over 2,000 now trained as CTAs.
no, it was an exciting time just to be downtown and to see the excitement that a lot of all our visitors were very, very impressed. Next year we're going to be in Phoenix, though. So
Not a bad place.
yeah.
Good, thank you. We'll call the question. All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We then move to agenda item number 5, which is a action request by Fiscal Services.
This is a request to recommend to the board to authorize a publication of a notice of intent to issue bonds not to exceed $55 million to finance construction and renovation of county facilities. The county has determined pursuant to a space needs study and through conducting a needs assessment of other existing facilities that it is necessary to replace and/or renovate portions of the county's juvenile detention center building, to replace and/or renovate the kitchen at the Kent County Correctional Facility, to demolish the existing building used as the Community Reentry Center and construct a new multi-purpose building located in the Fuller Complex for use by various county departments and/or for other governmental purposes, to renovate the building at 320 Ottawa Northwest, to build 2 new courtrooms and related judicial offices, including other renovations and improvements at the courthouse, and to acquire and install related furniture, fixtures, and equipment. Due to the magnitude of the projects, the county intends to pay for all or part of the cost through the issuance of bonds. As a condition precedent to the issuance of the bonds, the county is obligated to publish a notice of intent in accordance with state law. This notice declares the county's intent to pledge its limited full faith and credit on the bonds and is necessary in order to obtain a credit rating on the bonds. The county will reimburse itself for any preliminary costs it advances for the above projects.
Okay, is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Commissioner Morgan, is there support?
Support.
Commissioner Vice Chair Hennessy, questions and comments? Commissioner Hennessy.
We discussed this at executive committee and what the amount should be, and went on the higher amount, the 55 million at this point, not meaning that we would necessarily bond for that much into the future, but it gave, you know, this is an advertisement. This is the way in which you just sort of put this forth into the, you know, into the public, and it does not commit us to this level of bonding or borrowing.
You are correct, and I'll just make a few points now that I wanted to make on this motion. I know there's been some discussion. This action request does not bind us to any lending as to amount or timing. This is what I would call process. This is the first step of the process to ultimately get us there, and it's a necessary step. But just to be perfectly clear, we're going to have other opportunity to talk about this, to discuss what's behind this, to figure out more about the projects, to see how this affects our budget, all those types of things. And so the timing of this, there really isn't any. I mean, probably ideally, you know, you'd want to have something done as it stands right now, maybe the first part of 2016. But there's no tie to that, and once we pass this notice of intent, my understanding is that's a step that has to be taken, but after that, you're then good to proceed really indefinitely. We could be acting on this for several years later if it came to that. The reason, though, why I do think it is important is because interest rates are edging up. We do have legitimate capital projects that need to be done. And so just like someone who has a home and is thinking about refinancing their mortgage at a low rate and knows that the market may be creeping up with interest rates, you stop and assess whether it's a good decision on your own personal finances to make that move. In many respects, this is the same thing. Yes, there'd be new building, but it would be a new building presumably that we feel that we need. So I just wanted to lay out some of those concepts and ideas. I know there is some concern by a few commissioners what this might be interpreted as, what this might be viewed as, but I just want to make it perfectly clear that by passing this resolution, we are not committing ourselves in any way to do a financing where it's a step in the process to ultimately get us there. With that, I'll open it up to other questions or comments. Commissioner Jones.
Thank you, Chair. In the process of potentially looking at a new building, when does it come out with the plan of here's how much this would cost, here's our time frame, and then is there an extra step in the mix where the operational costs are considered? Because I think of what the lessons some of our schools have learned. They get money to build the building and they don't have money to turn on the lights. So when I look at what we just went through for our balanced budget, I look at this and I wonder where the money comes from to turn on the lights, if this happens.
Well, we are going to be, that will come in January, February, as we do the planning for the facility, if the board authorizes this. Again, it doesn't commit us to building the facility, but operational costs will be taken into consideration, because right now we're operating a building that is far less efficient than the proposed building will be. So we anticipate that there will be some offsets there. It's going to be smaller, it's going to be more energy efficient than the existing building, and we currently have those operating expenses at this time. We're not going to be adding staff, which is oftentimes seen in the school because you're adding new staff. In this case, we're moving staff, we're not adding staff.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we'll have the opportunity to look into all those things,
Yes.
again, and how it affects the budget, what the long-term operating cost would be if it differs,
Yep.
might even improve, whatever the case may be, we will have an opportunity to look at those things. Commissioner Bukowski.
Yeah, in the list of potential projects, as a commissioner from Grand Rapids, the one that strikes me missing is the North Kent Center, because especially in light of the little irony there that Commissioner Morgan got, that the great success of the South Clinic, and then we look at how our facilities are kind of scattered over the north part of the county. We have the property at 17 Mile Road, and I don't know how much of a lift that is to put that in this project list. I just think that would be something for us to have that fuller conversation about. Because again, I think that's not the last, but it's the biggest thing that's missing from this list based on our space needs study that we did.
There are a number of things that are missing. A lot of these are imminent or more imminent needs than the North Kent facility, where we have the health clinic that we currently rent a facility at. We have a sheriff's department north substation. I mean, those are 5-7 years out in, I think, our thinking, and these are more the immediate needs. It may come to the point where we build up enough cash reserve to pay cash. We're looking at options as it relates to that as well.
For the North Kent.
For anything in the future, like the Parks facility, which is not listed here as well.
Okay.
So there are second-tier needs, I'll call them.
Okay.
Commissioner Mast.
I just have a couple of questions, I guess. What is the 320 Ottawa Avenue Northwest? I should know that. But
That's the old probate court building,
okay.
which currently
Okay.
houses our information technology.
Right. Well, it was helpful to have these list of questions, because I wasn't at the commission meeting, I think, where you had this presented. Question number 5, it talks about the different bond issues. What is the timing? And then, so you're thinking of only having one issuance, but may include separate series and subparts. So does that mean they get put out for selling at different times? Because a different series gets put out for selling at a different time.
Yes,
each one.
yeah, but we're trying to also reduce our issuance costs, because with every issue, there's an issuance cost.
Right,
If we
right.
say there's gonna be one issue, and then we'll go at different times, it reduces that cost.
Okay.
And just for the record, and those sitting out there, what Commissioner Mast was referring to was a memo that Darrell had provided to the commissioners based on questions that came up when this topic was first talked about during a work session at our last full board committee meeting, or, full board meeting that we had 2 weeks ago. Commissioner Voorhees.
Thank you, Chair. So I guess my disappointment is that we don't have the Parks building in here. It's the second tier is what I got the implication of, but
The
where do
intent
you-
is that we've got some property on North Monroe, and when that sells, that would be money that we could use for a couple of purposes, including the Parks building. I mean, we don't want to issue more bonds than we need to. We don't want to issue more debt than we need. And we expect that if that property is sold, that I would only recommend that it be used for one-time capital purposes, such as a parks facility.
Commissioner
Well,
Mast.
just another, and probably this was raised Thursday night, but, so we're in the process of selling the 82 Ionia. That's going to generate, we're going to sell it for 10. What do we have left in terms of mortgage?
Well, we will have to defease the existing bond, so it'll be about $7.5 million. It should reduce the amount we're bonding for, but we are looking at a maximum amount, okay?
Yeah.
This will not obligate us, we could issue, $30 million. It just depends on, as we fine tune and do the programming for the facilities and get the architectural and engineering estimates.
Yeah, well, and the major advantage is that by noticing this intent, we will be able to get reimbursed in the bond proceeds for all of the pre-development costs.
Correct.
So your answer on 72 or 82 Ionia is what? We net $7.5 million, or we net only $2.5 million?
We would net about 7 to $7.5 million.
Okay, that could be rolled into this, because
Could
I
be.
think that was part of our discussion. Okay.
Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As far as the bonding itself, we're at a percent of SEV now, 1.2,
1.6.
and the bonding agencies look at up to 10%.
Well, the Constitution limits the amount of bonding to 10% of
So
our
we're
SED.
well within that range.
Oh, yeah.
And we're not going to raise taxes to pay for this bonding
No.
issue. Okay, great.
Nice leading question.
Any other questions? I see none, so we'll call the question. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. We move to agenda item number 6, which is an action request by the Health Department.
This is a request to recommend to the board to approve the Health Department's comprehensive planning and budgeting contract for fiscal year 2016 and accept and appropriate $136,585 in additional funding from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services for the Health Department budget. The comprehensive planning and budgeting contract is an annual agreement between the state and the county to provide certain required public health services, including immunizations, infectious and sexually transmitted disease control, hearing and vision screening, food protection, drinking water, and on-site sewage monitoring, as well as several other state-funded programs. The Health Department has received a notice from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services that additional grant funds are available in the agreement for certain programs. Those include the Breast and Cervical Cancer Control and Navigation Program, Childhood Lead Poisoning Prevention Program, Sexual Violence Prevention Program, WIC Breastfeeding Peer Counselor Program, and the Immunization Program. All other funding for the agreement activities is consistent with prior year levels and has been included in the Health Department's 2016 budget. Due to an electronic submission of all grant documents in the state's e-gram system, there's no requirement for the board chair to sign the contract.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Mast. Is there support?
Support.
By Vice Chair Hennessy. Questions or comments? Commissioner Bukowski.
Kind of a nit related to our oversight, that last bullet point where the chair doesn't have to sign it, who hits submit in egrams? Because I hang out in egrams with my day job, and I, as executive director, have to hit submit. So who has that authority?
Yeah, that's submitted by Byrne, our finance director.
So that, okay, again, that's who binds us, just making sure.
Finance Director for the Health Department, to be
Okay.
clear on that.
All right, thank you.
Other questions? I'm seeing none, so we'll call the questions. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We move then to agenda item number 7, which is an action request by the Sheriff's Department.
This is a request to recommend to the board to accept an Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant from the Department of Justice, Bureau of Justice Assistance, and to appropriate $58,900 to the 2016 Sheriff Department Special Project Fund. The Byrne Memorial Grant supports local activities that prevent and control crime, including law enforcement programs, prosecution and court programs, prevention and education programs, corrections and community corrections programs, drug treatment, planning, evaluation, and technology programs. The county and the city of Grand Rapids have been jointly allocated $130,900. The county will receive $58,900, and the city will receive $72,000. The City of Grand Rapids Community Development Department will be responsible for grant administration of the grant, and each local unit will be responsible for the sub-allocations of the grant. The funds will be used by the Sheriff's Department for smart policing, automation of warrant process and smart policing, ruggedized computers. The automation of the warrants process will involve creating interfaces to improve coordination across criminal justice systems and proactively deploy resources at strategic times and locations. The purchase of approximately 7 computers will provide a more stable computing platform to perform critical information gathering and call information, and also improve the efficiency of application usage. The grant period is October 1, 2015 through September 30th, 2018.
Okay, is there a motion to adopt?
So
Moved.
Vice Chair Hennessy, is there support?
Support.
Commissioner Mast. Questions or comments? Commissioner Voorhees.
Yes, that's Chair Saltfeld. Maybe a definition of ruggedized computer. It's a new word to me. And,
I'm going to defer to Randy DeBruine from the Sheriff's Department.
Good morning, Randy. We would like to know what a ruggedized computer is.
This is fancy grant language.
It's what?
Basically, it's computers that go in the police cars. They're a little bit more sturdy than what your traditional laptop is. They get used a little bit more and get hit a little once in a while. So they're very sturdy computers. They're about twice the cost of a regular laptop. It's just going to go in the police cars.
made for travel. Good point.
Okay.
Thank you.
Other questions? I am seeing none. Thank you, Randy. So we'll call the question. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We move then to agenda item number 8, which is miscellaneous. Is there any commissioner miscellaneous today? I see none, so our next meeting will be on November 3rd with a work session starting at 7:30 a.m. and at that we are adjourned at 9 a.m.